Minnesota Vikings are set to make the NFL playoffs, but it's going to be a confusing road to get there. Are they going to be the 5 seed? Or are they going in the NFC North? Let's talk about the different scenarios. Minnesota Vikings have surprised everybody this season except those in the building with their position so far in the playoff hunt. They're sitting at 10-2 despite having just a 6.5 win total from the sports books. That would place them around the 4th overall pick in the NFL draft. Nobody believed in this Vikings team except the people in the building. And they are primed to make the playoffs. Now, making the playoffs in itself is an accomplishment. There are 14 spots for the 32 teams, but accomplishing that in week 14 is quite an achievement. Only 2 teams have clinched the playoffs so far. The Buffalo Bills clinched the AFC East on Sunday night when they beat the San Francisco 49ers, and the Kansas City Chiefs have clinched a playoff spot by doing so when they beat the Las Vegas Raiders on Black Friday. They both did it in week 13. Now, the Vikings can do in week 14 with 4 different ways. They need a win or a tie to start off with. The first scenario, they need a win, and the Seahawks and Cardinals need to tie. Now, the reason being here is one of those teams could potentially get a wild card spot, and the other is going to win, likely, the NFC West. Now, when you look at this, the Vikings have the tiebreaker win over the Cardinals. They do not have it over the Seahawks because they play in 3 weeks, and they will need one of these teams to lose, which the Cardinals are 6-6, and the Vikings have 4 games on them. So if they lose and the Vikings win, it's clear as day. And the Seahawks, well, they're 7-5, so we can just kind of eliminate them from the pictures if the Cardinals lose. Now, the second scenario is with that Cardinals loss and a Rams loss or tie because the Vikings do not hold a tiebreaker over the Los Angeles Rams due to the fact they lost on Thursday night, 30-20. And when you lose games against divisional opponents, it can come back to haunt you with the playoffs. Now, they can win with a tie. That would also include a Buccaneers loss, a Cardinals loss, and a Rams loss, or another version with a tie, a Buccaneers loss, Arizona tie, Rams loss, Eagles win or tie. Those will all get the Vikings into the playoffs right now. And that's a great thing. You want to be in the playoffs. But they don't just want to make the playoffs. They want to win the NFC North. And it's going to be a hard road to get there because not only are the Vikings 1 game behind the Detroit Lions because they lost to the Detroit Lions earlier this year, they have to worry about tiebreakers. So let's start here. The Detroit Lions have 5 games left, just like the Vikings. Their games are a relative gauntlet. The Lions host the Packers on Thursday night, and then they host the Bills next Sunday. They're at the Bears in 2 weeks and at the 49ers in 3 before hosting the Vikings to finish the season. They're going to have to lose 2 games, and the Vikings are going to have to win out in order to guarantee that the Minnesota Vikings win the NFC North. And this is where it gets really complicated, so bear with me. The tie-breaking procedures. If the Vikings and Lions end up tied because the Vikings end up winning that game in Week 18, the Lions are going to win the division for one reason. The head-to-head record will be 1-1, which is the first tiebreaker. The best win-loss percentage within the division will be tied because they will have each lost 1 divisional game. The best win-loss percentage in common games. That could be the one that screws the Vikings because the Lions beat the Rams. The Vikings lost to the Rams, and that would essentially give the Lions, hey, guess what? Here's the division. So the Vikings would need a loss by the Detroit Lions to the 49ers in order to help them with that tiebreaker procedure. Because then it's best one-loss tie percentage games within the conference, which would be tied, and then strength of victory, which I'm not sure who has the strength of victory, but it would be which team's opponents had a better record, which considering who the Lions are going to be playing with the Bills and the Vikings, one of their other opponents was the Jets, I'd lead to think that the Lions are going to win that one as well. So when you take a look at the tiebreakers, the Vikings are going to need some help. And they're going to need some help from the Packers. They're going to need some help from the Bills. They're going to need some help from the Bears and the 49ers in order to be able to potentially win the NFC North. It's not going to be an easy road. It's never an easy road in the National Football League. But if the Vikings want to do it, they just got to keep winning. And they got to hope for the best. They can only control what's in front of them. And what's in front of them is 5 games that they can win. Do that. Let's hope an NFC North title follows. I'm Tyler Forness with AZ Sports. Skol Vikings.